Yeah.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, everyone. We've got 7 people in attendance. That's amazing. I'm going to go through the remote script, and then we'll get going here. So the open meeting of the select board is being conducted remotely. Some of us remotely, some of it remotely, pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. We have one board member tonight, Christy, who is coming in remotely, and Don will be here later. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment in person and online. Eric, I'm adapting this a little bit. This meeting, the select board is convened by video conference and in person. Erica, did we decide on, do we need to confirm members? We didn't do it last week.
We didn't do it last week because all members were present.
Yeah.
So I would do it this week just because Christy.
Okay. All board members, please notify that you are here present. Melissa Murphy.
Present.
Matt Fee.
Here.
Christy Ferrantella.
Here.
And Jason Bridges here. Okay. Couple other notes. We're using Zoom webinar for the remote part of this meeting. Some housekeeping. If you're on Zoom, please turn your camera off and your mic off until your agenda item comes up. Just helpful for all of us to be able to manage all of it. And if you can't figure that out, that's okay too. Let's see. I believe that's it. So for tonight, Christy, I told you earlier today that we were just going to do our regular votes, and you could chime in by voice, but we're going to have to do a roll call for each vote tonight.
Okay.
And then also, this is a side note, but for the planning board, we're going to email Erica our votes instead of the paper, since Christy is off. She can't do paper. Okay, well, we'll figure that out in the meantime. All right. Okay, I think that's it for the remote meeting script. We'll call to order the March 23rd, 2022 Select Board meeting to order. It is 5:33. There's no changes to the agenda that I know of. Libby, announcements?
Thank you. This meeting is being audio and video recorded. There is no select board meeting next week, Wednesday, March 30th. It's a 5th Wednesday. Board doesn't typically meet then. We're back at it on Wednesday, April 6th. And that's basically it.
Okay. Any opening select board announcements or comments? Okay. Is there any public comment here tonight, either in person or remotely, the attendees for items that are not on the agenda?
It
Oh.
was the follow-up first.
Oh, sorry. Can I just stay with public comment?
Yeah.
We'll just stay with public comment right now. Yep. Yeah, come on up.
Hi, Brooke Moore. I just wanted to ask a question about
Pull it down. There you go.
line painting and crosswalk painting. Is there a schedule for that? I know you can't answer me tonight, but we'd love to have an answer, unless Erica has it.
Yep, Erica.
I can answer that.
Oh, wow.
Line painting is scheduled for the end of March and the first 2 weeks of April. So we should be seeing that soon.
Is that crosswalks and the line painting like in the middle of the road? Usually
There's gonna be 2 different crews that come in, one doing the long lines.
Mhm.
So the fog lines and the middle lines, and then somebody else doing the shorter, like stop bars and crosswalks and things.
That's great. Thank you. Any other public comment for items not on the agenda? Okay, we have somebody raised their digital hand, Jonathan Shayer. Apologize if I messed up that last name.
You got it perfectly.
All right.
I don't believe Article 70 is on your agenda tonight. Can you confirm that? Because I don't want to speak out of turn.
It is not.
Okay. So allow me to introduce myself. I'm John Scher. I'm the executive director of the New England Convenience Store and Energy Marketers Association. We represent convenience stores across the region, including on the island. And I'm speaking tonight about warrant article 70, which makes it unlawful to sell, distribute, or commercially use single-use plastic, fiber, tobacco filter products in the town and county of Nantucket on or after June 1st, 2023. And I really just want to be clear about what this is. It's effectively a ban on all cigarettes and many cigar sales. It's also really important to understand that this is a sales ban. It's not a use ban. It doesn't prevent anyone from using any of these products that are no longer going to be available for sale through licensed retailers on Nantucket. And I can certainly understand how on the surface this may seem like a good idea, but in reality, it is only going to hit your local retailers. There are 19 of these businesses. And because it's a sales ban and not a use ban, the products will come back onto the island. And I've seen this before. I had a front row seat for when Massachusetts decided to ban flavored tobacco back in, well, the debate was 2019 and the ban went into effect on June 1st, 2020. And for the first, well, frankly, year and a half, but really for the first year, we tracked it very, very closely, what happened both in Massachusetts and in surrounding states. And I realize this is a state and not a town, but I think the message is pretty much the same. And what I can tell you and what I can demonstrate through data and numbers is that the products came back into Massachusetts. The products that were banned came back into the state. We saw incredible lifts in surrounding states. We saw migration to other products. What we can't track, and what's kind of scary, is how much of it went to the illegal market. But make no mistake, these markets do exist. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. There's a reason there's a T in that name, and it is very, very real. This market exists already, and I fear that by banning products that have demand only exacerbates that market. And as I said, we can't track that. But what I can tell you is the Illegal Tobacco Task Force in Massachusetts, which is a multi-agency task force, in their March 1st report, which is their annual report, for the very first time, what they stated in that is that because of the ban, the flavored tobacco products, all of them that are coming back into the state, are now the primary enforcement challenge for the state. Once upon a time, these products were sold through licensed retailers, but now they're not. And so you can't regulate it and enforce it in the same way. So you're going to have 100% of the problem that you've identified, and that's still going to be, but the local retailers are going to have 0% of the sales. And so I wonder really what is accomplished. This isn't on your agenda tonight, so I don't know if or when or if the select board will actually take a vote on it before your town meeting in May. And also, I don't know what your process is. I can certainly try to understand it, but we really recommend that you do actually take a vote on this, and hopefully you'll follow the recommendation of the Finance Committee, which voted no action. That way you send a clear signal to the town meeting members that this is just not something that you deem worthy of pursuing or a good idea. Thanks. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jonathan. The select board will not be voting on this. That it's everything's going to town meeting. So it's already passed. It's already went by select board, FinCom, going to town meeting. Thank you, Jonathan. Is there any other public comment not on the agenda? Okay, we will go backwards in the agenda because I missed the follow-up comments from prior select board meetings. March 16th, there were some comments on the status of the Walter Barrett Pier reconstruction project on F Street, and then a dredging of the ditches in Nantucket. I think Libby and Jeff Carlson are here to give some feedback.
Yep. So on the first item, the Walter Barrett Pier, long story short, that project should be open to boat launching by the end of the week. A lot of delays occurred there due to supply chain issues. And while the project might not be completely finished by the end of the week, at least the ramp area will be open for launching. Jeff and Vince have developed some responses to the dredging of the ditches in Nantucket issue, and it's rather complicated. So I understand that the board would like to schedule this for an actual discussion at its April 13th meeting. Jeff, I think, could give a little bit of an overview of some of the complications of it in response to last week's comment.
Sure. Thank you, Libby. Excuse me. Some of the complications that have come up as we've looked through it have to deal with sequencing for some other larger projects. And I know we provided some written comment in regards to that for both resiliency and water quality, with the improvement potentially of the culverts for the Nantucket ditch and Long Pond and Nantucket Road in their resiliency efforts, as well as one of the issues we ran into through a larger stakeholder meeting involved just the multitude of property owners that are serviced by the Nantucket ditch and its immediate watershed through the mosquitoes ditches. And that involved the Conservation Foundation, a land bank, a number of private homeowners. We had to engage Jewish Fish and Wildlife and the state and kind of work through some issues that were there. And all those have kind of compounded to having to put together kind of a more comprehensive project. So I think I'm happy to take any questions on our written thing tonight, knowing that we have a more detailed follow-up to come. But if people have questions up front, I'm happy to take them and we can include them in the larger discussion in a couple of weeks.
If the board's okay, I think it's going to be on the agenda for April 13th. We can keep it till then, unless you.
Yeah, I think that's great that it's
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Okay.
And also thank you to Libby and to Jeff and whoever else got the ramp opened earlier than we had was noticed in our packet by getting it by the end of the week. That's going to help a lot of guys. And I'm glad that we were able to do that.
Thank you, Jeff.
Chair, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I was just going to say, if people have questions in specific to that Nantucket Dix project, whether it's members of the public or members of the board, if they email those to us in advance of that meeting, we may be able to prepare some information to have some questions or concerns addressed then. So if they come up in between, please just send them into our office and we're happy to try to address them up front.
That's a great idea, Jeff. That'll streamline everything. Appreciate it. Anything else, Libby? Okay.
No.
All right. Thank you. We have the COVID-19 update, Public Health Department. Roberto, hi there.
Good evening. So really what's going really well is status quo. The sewer sampling that has been coming in, we've been pushing that back down to every other week, which is going to be working pretty well. Over the last 2 weeks that we've seen, it is saying that it's less than one case per day. And based on what we are seeing on the tests, that is remaining accurate. Based on the testing that we're seeing coming in from the state, we've only seen 2 cases in the last week. So that's great news. Is there going to be another surge due to this Omicron subvariant? It is possible, yes. Is it going to be majorly disruptive? Not really. We have a very strongly vaccinated population. Speaking of vaccines, there are signups available at the town website for the next vaccine clinic at schools. So let me actually get you that date. For some reason, it's not open. Should have been prepared for this one. My apologies. So if I'm not I'll find it later, and I'll put it here in the chat so that we can announce it later. What we're finding is the state clinics, which we're doing now twice a month. Last clinic we had about approximately 50 people getting doses, and we're going to continue until demand stops. Go onto the town website under COVID vaccine clinics. You can sign up there online. You can pick your appointment, or you can come to the town trailer at 131 Pleasant Street on Wednesday evenings from 4 to 6 and you can sign up in person as well. With that, I think I'm just going to leave it there.
Any questions or comments for Roberto? Melissa?
Thank you so much, Jason. Hi, Roberto. How are we on access to tests? I'm just trying to think in sort of preparation mindset. If we do see another surge, I just, want to understand how prepared we are for that.
Yes, so as far as PCR testing, that is definitely going by the wayside at this point because of the state funding drying up on that. You would still be able to get some testing done at the hospital if you need to, but we are relying pretty heavily on rapid tests. Rapid tests are available for purchase. We do have the federal ones that were delivered. So we have approximately 2,500 tests here for when a surge does happen if needed. But in the meantime, people are going to have to buy the rapid tests.
Okay.
We are continuing with the sewer checks every 2 weeks, and if we do see a surge, we can increase the amount of time. And then real quick, the next vaccination clinic is Saturday, April 9th at the elementary school.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Roberto, I had one question for you. We received a lot of the home rapid test for Fairwinds just because we're a clinic. My office is full of them, boxes and boxes. Is there an expiration date? And is it a real expiration date, or is it like water where they just put it on there just because they have to?
There's definitely an expiration date, but because of the reagents in the boxes, usually, if I'm not mistaken, the eye health ones that have been set out, which is the laminar flow test, those have about an 18-month expiration date. However, you can use them after the expiration date. It's not necessarily like water because it does actually degrade, but you just have to have a higher viral load for it to show up.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Matt,
I'm
Christy? Okay. Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you.
Okay. There's no new business that I know of. Is there approval of minutes for March 16th and approval of payroll warrants for March 20th?
So moved.
Second,
Oh, sorry. Can I add in the treasury warrants for March 23rd? I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Is that
sure.
okay?
I'll amend the motion.
yep, second,
And Matt seconded. Okay. By roll call vote, Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
aye,
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Jason Bridges, aye. That passes 4-0. Pending contracts. Libby had a couple things she wanted to go over with us.
Thank you. I did want to mention a few things here. First of all, we have an intra-municipal agreement with the airport, and this is just the documentation of an agreement you've already been briefed on that will enable the town to pave a portion of Skyline Drive that is going to be disrupted for a water line connection by the airport's project. We will be assuming the difference in cost between curb to curb paving and simply trench paving. We discussed this quite some time ago, but now we finally have the actual agreement in place. The Candle Street lot owned by National Grid is again made available to us for the valet parking for this summer. And it seems like every year we fear that it's not going to be available anymore, but we've been able to secure it again this summer. And we also have on the agenda the license agreement with Valet Park of America for them to operate the valet service there. I want to acknowledge Charlie Palaki, our Park and Rec manager, for helping get a landscaping bid re-scoped for maintenance of the playing fields. We put out a bid last fall for playing fields and some other sites to relieve Public Works from having to continue the pretty comprehensive maintenance that is necessary for all of those things to remain functional and usable and healthy. And with staffing shortages and equipment issues, that's been quite challenging. So we put a bid out in the fall. It came back much too high for our appropriation. Charlie took a look at the scope, trimmed it down a bit. We put it out again and got a successful bidder at a lower cost. So that's great. The next item, Tom Hanlon Landscaping, actually, if we would like to remove that from the pending contract sheet. I should have mentioned that at the beginning, but there's an issue with some of the bid costs that need further evaluation. So please, when we get to approving this, just approve the contract without that item. And I wanted to mention the final, I think it's the final item on here. It's a professional services agreement with Eisenstein Flaherty and Associates. This is a contract for management support services for our island home. And we obviously have been struggling for several years now to retain, to recruit and retain a permanent administrator at our island home. So Eisenstein and Flaherty we've been working with them for them to provide us with an administrator. That will continue. And we hope that, over time we will have somebody more permanent, but if the person has to be reassigned or leave for some period of time or whatever, they will provide a licensed administrator along with other support services, including things like training, financial compliance reporting, regulatory reporting requirements and training and safety reviews, helping prepare for the annual survey with the state, analyzing staffing schedules, a whole host of things that we are mostly doing right now. I don't want people to think that we're not doing those things, but this will provide a level of stability and confidence that the facility is, all aspects of it are being covered, which we think is highly needed as we are moving into, hopefully, being able to design and construct a new facility. So that is what that contract is all about.
Thank you, Libby. Any questions, comments?
I'll make a motion. Oh, go
Well,
ahead.
just one comment. I assume that the landscapers that are being hired understand that we have fertilizer regulations. Just that's in the back, that's in the bid, correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, great. Thank you. I'll make a motion without removing Tom Hanlon Landscaping.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor by roll call, Matt Fee.
Aye.
Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Christy Ferentella,
Aye.
Jason Bridges, aye. That passes 4-0. Thank you. Okay, do we need more time for the planning board? I have one suggestion.
You all can email me. I have my iPad.
Okay.
So
I was going to have us do paper and then have Christy at the very end say hers after we gave it to you. So this will work.
you can email me.
Okay, so our first first item in the citizen department committee request is applicant introduction, review of applications, and appointment to the planning board alternate seat. And so let me pull this up. Oh, thank you. Okay, so we have Jennifer Porter, Scott Wilson, Carl Borchett, and Colin Letty. And if any of those, if anybody would like to speak at all, they can. Sorry. I see that Carl is here. Carl, would you like to speak? Please go ahead. You have to raise that microphone up from when Brooke was there.
Good evening. I am Carl Borchert, as most of you know. I just wanted to say a couple of quick things. I was on the planning board as an alternate for 5 years, from 2013 to 2018, and I really enjoyed it. It was a good run. I took pride in listening really well to a lot of applicants and attorneys and neighbors and concerned citizens. I probably spent hundreds of hours listening to people during that time. And that was one of my strengths. I'm a moderate. Like I say, I'm a good listener and I'm a moderate. I would consider myself a consensus builder and a bridge builder. I learned to speak the zoning language a little bit, which was very helpful. Learning the differences between the zoning areas on the island and how they affect development and how they affect applications before the board. I think it's really important to know that a bit of the zoning protocol. I also wanted to mention that through the vetting process, as applications come before the board, Our votes are really important. And what we provide a lot of economic stimulation to the island with approvals for projects that have been vetted through the laws, through the zoning laws and the development laws and major commercial development laws and residential development laws. People can, the tax base is increased with new development, and jobs are created for design firms, engineers, tradespeople, all who put food on the table for their families and send their kids to college because of the work we do, or that's done on the planning board. And I just would be interested in serving the remainder of this term through 24, if you so appoint me, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Carl. Any questions?
No, that's good. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. And I think we have I see a hand up, Mr. Scott Wilson.
Hi, hi, yes, greetings from Hartford, Connecticut. I've been a homeowner on Nantucket since 2010, and have in Noshup, and joined the board of Noshup almost immediately, and almost immediately fell into the area plan process for that part of the island, which I enjoyed doing. We then got into negotiations with Valero next door to Noshup over the original site of the Richmond development. And when the Valero thing cratered, I worked very hard with the Noshup board in negotiating with Richmond to protect our rights there. That brought me before the planning committee, the planning board several times, and had to participate in terms of getting our position across there. Later on, we were concerned and acted in front of the planning board with respect to the location of the second marijuana dispensary, which was originally planned for across the street from our exit there on Old South Road. And we were successful in getting the planning board to sort of change their views on that. I'm a retired lawyer. I practiced 35 years in the aircraft finance field, doing a lot of aircraft leasing and financing and debt reschedulings and associated work, a lot of bankruptcy work. I also have a master's in public policy from Trinity College here in Hartford. And I would really love the opportunity to serve as the alternate on this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Is there anybody else? Is Jennifer or Colin on? Did you see them anywhere? I'm looking at my attendees. Okay. Thank you all 4 people who applied. Any other comments, questions from the board? Erica?
Nope. I was just going to say that review our process here where the board will email me their vote. I will read the vote aloud. You will confirm that that is your vote, and then we will do the tally.
I did from a different account. I can't pull up my select board account for some reason. I can't get into it. Is it E Mooney at EMOON? Yeah.
Oh, I see. Mine's not sending. I just gave it verbally. I gave it the old fashioned way. I'm old.
Would you like me to do the same thing, Erica?
Sure. How about if I just say the 2 that I got, and then you 2 can say what yours were? Does that
There
work?
you go.
Sure.
Okay, so I have From Ms. Murphy, a vote for Carl Borchert.
That's correct.
From Ms. Ferrantella, a vote for Jennifer Porter.
That's correct.
From Mr. Fee, a verbal vote for Mr. Borchert.
That's correct, Carl Borchert.
And for Mr. Bridges.
Carl.
Okay, so Carl is the new planning board alternate. Thank you.
And I did send the email, so it'll come through at some point.
I'll have it in my email tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you for your support.
Thanks, Carl.
And I'd like to thank all the applicants also. It's really wonderful to see so many people apply for the seat.
Thank you, Melissa. I agree. Okay, next up, Habitat for Humanity, a request for waiver of 50% of building permit fees for duplex at 9A Benjamin Drive. This is pretty much policy, I think. Any questions or thoughts?
I'm happy to make a motion to approve.
Sure.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor by roll call, Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. That passes 4-0. Thank you. That's a good thing. Number 3, Nantucket Conservation Foundation request for approval of conservation restriction to be held at 35 Shakamo Road. This is the second part in this. Ken, are you?
I'd be happy to comment if you'd like, Mr.
Sure.
Chair.
Yeah, can you give a quick overview?
Yeah, this is a conservation restriction on about 7 acres out on Shakamo Road. There's no direct benefit to the town or the inhabitants. However, the statute requires that the Board of Selectmen or the Select Board makes a determination that it is in the public interest. This has been reviewed by Town Council and there's an opinion in your file recommending that the documentation is in appropriate form and suggests moving forward and approving, if you're so inclined, to approve the form as well as the concept of it, and so that it can go forward to the state to be put on record.
Thank you, Ken. Any questions or comments?
Make a motion. It's in the public interest.
Second.
Okay, all those,
And to approve it, yes.
Yeah, second.
all those in favor by roll call, Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
and Jason Bridges, aye. That passes 4-0. Thank you. Thank you, Cormac, for coming on tonight.
Just a quick comment. It's interesting how our perception of these has changed from when I was first on the board, where these conservation restrictions were kind of looked on kind of funny. And it was always a lot of questions and a lot of doubt and a lot of like, why are we doing that? And it's, in the course of 20 years, I think people have realized the value, and it's more expensive to, have built property and service it than it is to have some of this. And I think it's been a real shift in the town's sort of acceptance and mentality toward it, which is great.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your support.
Thanks, Cormac. Okay, number 4, the Surf LLC request for approval to construct a new deck and porch roof at Children's Beach Concession, 15 Harbor View Way. Erica?
We have Charlie Palaki on to review this from the DPW.
Hey, Charlie.
Jason, how are you? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you can go ahead, Charlie.
This is, I guess, is pretty similar to what we had approached you with for down at the Jetties concession. They're looking to expand with a new deck and a porch roof off the side of the Children's Beach concession stand.
Okay, do we have any questions for, did you have anything else, Charlie?
I think that's it. Unless you have any questions.
Yeah, I think there was a lot in the packet, but we might have some questions. Erica, did you want to put anything up? Do you have some of they were basic drawings, but just to give people, the public, a sense of where it is, and it helped me to be able to see it.
We may want the finance director to briefly summarize how the lease would work with this.
Mhm. I think there was one further
with
Further
yellow.
along, that was a
Yeah.
little-
Yeah, I actually have a couple questions.
And we do have Abby Shaw
Mhm.
from the Surf Fund as well.
Hi, how are you?
There you go. That's the
Yeah, I
one.
think this one was, helped me understand it best. Brian,
So, yeah,
sorry.
my question, is that right?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I guess to Abby is, there's two different pictures. There's this picture that we have up now, which is showing it being the same roof line as the building. But then it's showing it, the other sketch in there is showing the square footage, but there we go. And it's not attached to the front porch. And so I'm not
Gotcha.
sure.
Oh, we were hoping, we were waiting to get the approval, but we were, the architect was going to do a couple designs to see what you would prefer, but we wanted to kind of have it flow around, so it would be attached to the other ramp. So it would be a nice flow. Right now, it's kind of choppy, and we felt like if you look at the picture where the handicapped people would be, it's that bottom right hand area. It's kind of dangerous. If somebody was rolled up there, they could fall off that area. And we just wanted to make it look smooth and just much safer area. Also, the roof line, we were going to do two different versions, either come out flat and then peak in the middle and then flat on the other side to match the roof line as you see it there. So he would bring it out flat on the left-hand side and then peak it in the center and come down. We wanted to make sure it looked very similar to that. And also the pavilion, which is, I should have taken a picture of the pavilion, sorry. The pavilion right behind it has a kind of a slanted peak roof line. Wanted it to all flow and improve the looks and the exterior of the building.
Are people gonna enter from the front of the building onto this porch, or are they gonna enter from the back ramp?
They can enter on the front and on the side where it is right now, where the planter is to the right. They'd be able to enter it there because that is a handicap ramp to the bathrooms, and also it would be they would come in and take a left.
So they could get to it from both
That makes
directions. Yeah.
Right. And we just felt like it would just improve the whole look of it down there. It's just kind of choppy, and we would be incurring the cost of it and gifting it to the town.
Yeah, I'm a follow-up. I'm in favor of doing something down there. I'm a little concerned about us approving it without knowing what it's going to look like. Because sometimes the select board's approval is looked at as, well, they've approved it, so, it goes to somewhere else, and they may not, the HDC or Historic Commission, whoever it goes to first, may take ours as approval for it. So I would like to see it.
Okay.
But, that's me. I'm just one of four of us here today.
No, I understand completely. We want to make it look like it's been a part of the building forever and improve the exterior and keep with the same roof line. So that's our goal. And as soon as I contact the architect, I can have him send you over the drawings. Also, one of the other reasons why we wanted to put an awning out there, an overhang, is because we noticed out in the past year, last summer, we got so much rain out at Surfside, and it's very hard to keep people busy, our employees and things, when it's raining. And it's we found it, you can only keep people busy so much, and then you start losing your staff, and then you get busy the next month, and it was kind of a struggle a little bit back and forth. I know everybody had that struggle, but with the rain really affects these properties when it isn't sunny out. So people will still come if there's somewhere they can sit underneath a covering.
Thank you. Any other questions, Melissa?
Not a question, but maybe just a suggestion that when the designs are in and it's gone through approval, to bring it back to us just so we can see what's going on. It'd be nice to see it. But I very much appreciate the concessionaires doing an improvement in this space. It's much needed. So
thank you.
Christy?
Thank you. And I agree with Melissa and Matt. I think it's worth us seeing it, but I'd rather see it
go through HDC first and have their approval before it comes back to the select board in kind of its final presentation.
I'm comfortable not seeing it. I think the HTC will do a good job with it and it'll be fine, but I'm hearing 3 board members want to see it again. So,
I'm sorry, Jason, I don't want to be confusing. I'm happy to move it forward this evening. I would just like to see it again
yes.
as a courtesy.
Yeah,
That's all I'm asking.
I thought you were all saying we don't want to approve anything.
I'm not
until we
speaking
see
for
it.
anyone else. I don't know what they're suggesting. That was my intention.
All right.
No, I
Matt,
understood this as an agenda item to approve them moving forward. And I'm happy to see them go forward with going through the proper process of other town boards.
Okay. But Matt, you're
Yeah,
not
I'd
there.
like to see, I'd like this stuff. It's sort of the situation we get in with some of the, sales of property and stuff. By the time it gets to us, it's a done deal.
Yeah.
So this is one where I'd like it to go through the process and the right things to be done before, so we can look at it. Let's say it is sort of, let's say it slips by and it is kind of, the HTC is really busy. I know they do a great job, but let's say it slips by and the next thing you know, it becomes the big issue.
I guess on the
So-
other hand, though, my thought is that if those boards and commissions don't see that we approve the improvement to the building that we own, it may get caught up. So
Well, how about this? I'll make a motion that we, how do we say it? That we approve it contingent on seeing the final plans before. That we approve it in concept. We approve in concept, but we'd like to make sure that it looks, that it is traditional and looks right. And I have,
Absolutely.
and I trust that you want, and that I trust the applicant wants to do that too. So.
Yeah.
Abby, is that okay with you? Does that give you enough time?
100%. That would be great. I know that the HCG, I can bring as soon as we have the drawings, I'll bring them right to you. I know the HCG is about 4 weeks behind trying to, I talked to them about a walk-in. But yes, definitely. I'll bring it right to you and that would be wonderful if you would. Thank you. And by the way, I want to thank everybody for awarding us, Stacy and I, the concession. We are beyond excited. And I meant to say that in the beginning. So thank you on that one.
Thank you, Abby. So
Erica's going to hand up.
Yep, Erica.
Sorry, I was just looking at the recommendation in your packet. And it had a list of bullet points that the approval should be contingent on. So does that include, does your motion?
Yeah, it would includes the bullet points.
Thank you. Trying to get that out. I'm having problems.
Okay, well, I'll second Matt's motion.
Any discussion, clarifications? Good. Okay, by roll call, all those in favor, Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Jason Bridges, aye.
May I ask just a quick clarifying
Sure.
question? I noticed that one of the bullet points says no construction between April 15th and Labor Day, but certainly that timing, that window is unless prior approval or approval is given. So they come to town administration for that approval for a variance on that? The window's closing.
I don't know if the lease is specific to that or if it's just a town administration thing. I'd have to, maybe Charlie knows why that date was chosen. It could just because events are planned there.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then it's not happening this year.
Right. So I just was noticing that. So we may want to make some kind of modification.
Maybe can Charlie speak to that?
I'm not 100% sure. I know it's different each site. I know down at Jetties, I believe they have a moratorium on construction after like May 15th. So it may have just been in place for when things want to be open.
We can look at that and
could you update
have
us?
the possibility to be flexible with that, just
Okay.
depending on, what the rationale
Yeah,
behind it was.
thank
I'll
you.
check
Because
with
we'd
Greg.
love for them to be able to do it this year, I
Yeah.
think is the intention.
If this is coming back to us, then and if we need to vote, if it happens to be, we have to vote to move that April 15th date, we can do it then.
Yeah, we could amend, if it's in the lease, you amend the lease,
Mm-hmm.
or you.
Yep.
And we can do something, yes. And that is not, if that's going to take a week and a half, it's not a huge project.
Right.
And it should be, and it's in a, it's not, there's nobody else really close that lives near it. So it's
Matt, who do you know who can do that in a week?
I
'Cause
love
want
your
the number.
enthusiasm.
all right. I can't tell you.
He's got a buddy.
I have to
Builders have
keep
been
that
very
quiet.
optimistic with us.
Abby, talk to Matt. He knows somebody. He can do that in a week. All
Will
right. Thank
do.
you, everyone. That was a good
Thank
discussion.
you very much.
Thanks, Abby.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, number 5, Winthrop, Nantucket, Harbor Fuel, request for extension of bulk fuel license at 6 Newell Street. Christy is gonna, she's recusing from this.
Yeah, I'll be recusing from this and the next agenda item.
Okay, thanks, Christy. We have Chief Murphy here.
Evening all, this is a request to extend. We had hopes with Harbor Fuel and Winthrop to have the permanent solution in place for this spring. Due to the findings of some asbestos in the valves, it delayed the project this past fall. It's a continuation through the end of the year that allow them to get the permanent solution, which is our next agenda item, in place for the boat basin to supply them with fuel. So that's what this extension is. And it's just on the 2 tanks that are already there that have been in use.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Any thoughts, questions?
Just hopeful that it's done by then.
Mhm.
I mean, I really hope this is it. So I'm happy to make an motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, Melissa?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jason, aye. That passes unanimously, 3-0. Thank you, Chief. You're just going to stay right there for the next one?
Might as well.
All right, well, we have public hearings next. We'll open a public hearing. Let's see, how do we consider an application for a new bulk fuel storage license for Winthrop for 2 new fuel tanks.
This is the permanent solution. It was brought to us. The plans are in your packet. It's 2 tanks, one of gasoline, one of diesel, to be down on the property located in the corner, kind of out of the way. The plan is to get these in place, the tanks in place and operational so that they can take and permanently remove the last 3 remaining tanks after being decommissioning the 2. Harbor Fuel is here. The engineers for the project from Winthrop are also on if you have any questions, but this is what we've been waiting for a long time, and this would be completed this fall.
The information was good in the packet, but these tanks are mostly will service what? Could you might have just said it. What will these tanks service?
They service the fuel dock for Winthrop, for the boat basin, for all the marine traffic.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so if anybody would like to the attendees, they can raise their hand and comment. All right, seeing nobody. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call. Melissa?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jason, aye. Okay, the public hearing is closed. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call. Melissa?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jason, aye. That passes 3-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody who's been working on this giant project for 20 years.
Almost 40.
Almost what?
Almost 40.
Or 40, or double that. Yeah, thank you all. Okay, on the town manager's report.
You're going so fast. I have to dig through my file. I'm way behind here. And while I'm looking for my report, which I cannot find, you have it up there, Erica. I just want to make a comment on those tanks. When I first started working for the town in 1988, it was already, the tanks were already under discussion to be moved for a couple of years before that. So it has been quite a while. Can you make that a tiny bit bigger? Is that possible? If not, just stand by for
Can you read that?
Well, I'll just make do. Yeah, hang on. Well, okay, so town manager's report for March. Obviously, we have been spending some time working on the coastal resiliency plan. As you all know, we reported out a little bit a week or two ago as to the outcome of a design thinking workshop that we had at the beginning of the month. And at your meeting I think April 6th, we have scheduled a review of the outcome of that workshop with Arcadis, with an update on the CRP from our coastal resiliency coordinator. We're continuing to work on how to structure a sustainability framework, and that is sort of an ongoing effort. Strategic plan, we're working on a long-term planning workshop for solid waste for your meeting on April 20, for a workshop meeting on April 25th at 4 o'clock. And we're working on a state of the town update that is currently scheduled for your April 27th meeting. And I'm going to be sending you a memo about that very shortly. Nantucket, haven't made much progress on the Nantucket sewer extension at this point. We did meet with our consultant, and too many other things have gotten in the way of that. So that is something we need to get back to. Facilities, we haven't made much progress on the facilities master plan other than to put forward a warrant article for a central municipal facility at 2 Fairgrounds Road. We have internal staff discussions continuing about the location of the DPW facility at a different place than where it is now. And our energy reduction, we need to develop an energy reduction plan in accordance with being a green community into our facilities master plan. So that is underway to happen there. Obviously, we've been spending a lot of time on Baxter Road long-term planning. We have regular internal meetings scheduled, and PFAS townwide risk assessment continues moving on, and that some of that will have to get going again after the beginning of the next fiscal year, when we hopefully have additional funds to do more work on that. Can you go down a little bit? I can't get to the rest of it.
Where do you want me to be?
Just go down a little.
Oh, I am. Is it not showing up on your end?
No,
It's not showing up on,
YouTube?
yeah.
it's just the first page.
Okay, hold on.
It looks like your screen sharing's paused. Yeah.
I don't know why it's
I don't know
doing
why
that.
either.
Well, I can pull it up for my own file.
Can you see that?
Yeah. Oh, that's very good. But now can you go up a tab?
Hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. So meetings, lots of meetings happening. We're working on 2022 annual town meeting outreach prep. We're working on narrative scripts for videos that we're going to be doing for the debt exclusion questions. This is something we've been doing for the past few years. Today, Greg and I met with DPW staff about spring and summer prep. We spent 2 or 3 hours out at DPW meeting about this. Lots of prep going on. They're doing a great job to get ready for spring and summer. Still have some internal discussions about stormwater and Children's Beach, and we are working on a report to give to the board. I know I've said that a couple of times now, but we really are working on it. It's just a little complicated.
Libby, if I can ask a question on the summer part. I know the CSOs really came through with all those applications, which is great. Lifeguards and seasonal workers how's that coming along as of now?
Lifeguards look good. If people are out there who have rooms to rent, we need about 4 or 5 more beds at this point, but we should be fully staffed for lifeguards. We will need DPW seasonal staff, and we have no housing right now for them. So if people have anything, that would be great. Otherwise, we will have to rely on people who are already here.
Thank you.
Sure. Island Home, continuing to work on not just the new project, but administrative issues at the facility. SBPF and Baxter Road relocation obviously are continuing. The supply chain issue project has stalled a bit, and I think there are efforts to try to get something underway again, but the grant, I believe, fell through. ICMA Regional Conference. Greg and I are going to be attending this April 6th through 8th. We will be remote for your meeting on the 6th. A lot of other projects going on. You recently had an update on sewer projects, so I won't go over those. And some of these we've already talked about. The DEI strategic plan is underway, and at some point soon, you'll get an update from our DEI director. Our classification and compensation study is underway, along with succession planning and a long-term retention strategy. We have a focused cabinet meeting coming up. It's a kind of a retreat for 2 or 3 hours to really get at succession planning, recruitment, housing, a number of other issues for cabinet input. You can go down a bit more. The procurement for the shooting range is out. It's due back not April 11th, April 15th. Still working to prioritize public works projects, the water main extension. This was the water main extension west of the airport. And you all know that that was reviewed with you last week. Was it last week? And we added a ballot question for that project. Lamp post repair and LED lighting review is a little mini project that's underway. We've talked internally about the potential, not the definitiveness, of replacing some of the streetlights downtown with the decorative streetlights, that is, not the overheads, with LED lights. And that's, we are well aware nobody likes cold, white, bright streetlights. They like the, more, what's it called? The warmer ambiance of the lighting. So we are definitely have that well in mind. Go down a tiny bit more to personnel. Okay, so collective bargaining continues. Performance reviews are ongoing. We are out for Deputy DPW Director for Operations. The Assistant Town Manager for Administration, I'm happy to say, is going to be filled with Rick Sears, who's currently our Assistant Finance Director. And there's going to be a bit of a transition with Rick from finance to town admin, because we do have some finance vacancies that are potentially going to take some time to fill, and we can't leave Brian doing everything on his own. So that there's going to be a bit of a transition there. We have, as you know, engaged a search firm for the fire chief position. Our collector is retiring in June. Our town accountant is taking a job elsewhere, as has our procurement assistant. So those positions are out. I think that's it.
Thank you, Libby. Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Thank you. Always a lot going on. Okay, we're on to select board reports and comments. Number one is the action on the MOU with SPPF, Wisconsin Beach Preservation Fund. Libby, you were going to start with this?
Yeah,
we also have George. Sorry, we have George Pucci here as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview, and whether or not you take action tonight, obviously, is going to be up to the board. But I think we want to remind everybody what the purpose of the MOU is. We are working to establish a public-private partnership to protect public infrastructure while we are developing a long-term plan to relocate Baxter Road. And the board did adopt a statement about this in November of 2021. That statement can be found on the town website. The MOU outlines the responsibilities and requirements of both parties. We believe that maintaining the bluff and its infrastructure is critical for public safety, liability, legal exposure, environmental purposes. And we have talked pretty extensively about this being a model for future similar situations around the island. The MOU seeks to resolve accountability and communications issues between the select board, town administration, SPPF, and the CONCOM, which the CONCOM has reported to be a problem in the past. And it reaffirms the board's commitment to resolving enforcement issues regarding the existing projects. We want to provide an effective framework for compliance with permit conditions going forward, and even permit conditions that have not been met in the recent past. It would provide private funding and obligations for a long-term plan for ultimately relocation of the road. In accordance with the recommendations of our engineers, we had a very in-depth study done on this. It began just about a year ago. The intent, of course, is to not in any way intrude on anything within the CONCOM's jurisdiction under the Nantucket Wetlands Bylaw and the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act. The MOU was developed after months of discussion with SPPF, Arcadis, CONCOM members, legal counsel, Parts of it are in direct response to criticisms that the town has not properly held SPPF responsible for complying with the conditions of the current project. We are well aware of those criticisms. And those criticisms are not altogether wrong. However, in the last 18 to 24 months-ish, we have dedicated significant staff, legal, and professional resources to address those concerns. We've been transparent with the MOU. We've offered time for public comment. We've included time for the Concom to comment as a courtesy. The MOU under consideration now puts forth further requirements to specifically address the previous shortcomings. Since the board's last discussion last week on the MOU, we've received 2 formal letters in addition to some public input provided at the March 16th meeting. We have a letter from Concom special counsel. Our own town council can speak to this if need be, but the letter is legally inaccurate, incorrect, and inappropriate. The MOU, in fact, does not impinge or impact or intrude or interfere with the Concom's permitting authority in any way whatsoever. The letter prepared by Concom special counsel actually goes well beyond the scope of work authorized for that special counsel. There's a question as to whether or not the discussion the Concom held in executive session was an appropriate topic for executive session. It really doesn't indicate any kind of true willingness to work collaboratively on solutions. And it's a concerning letter that, quite honestly, indicates a prejudgment of something that has not even gone before the commission yet. We have a letter from the Nantucket Conservancy organization, and there are a few assertions in that letter. Just to comment on those, there's an assertion that Arcadis did not recommend, our consultants who prepared for us the Baxter Road engineering feasibility report. There's an assertion that they did not recommend expansion of the project. In fact, if you read the report carefully, the Arcadis team explained that if effectiveness were the only criteria, expanding tow protection along more of the bluff would have been recommended. However, because of other stakeholder feedback, it was clear that that wasn't a measure that was met with a lot of support. So that is why Arcadis's recommendations focused on long-term removal and retreat with exploration of interim measures to buy time for the retreat process. There's an assertion that geotubes are hard armoring. That is inaccurate. CZM, Coastal Zone Management's definition is that they are a coastal engineering structure and are allowed for pre-1978 homes. Really, the bottom line here, I think, is in addition to this being hopefully a model for future situations and the board's need to take a big picture perspective on this whole situation, if the geotubes are removed, it's true we do not know for sure what will happen, but we do know that our consultants have strongly recommended against removal until a long-term plan is in place. Should there be a collapse of the bluff because of the removal, the town is facing serious legal, public safety, and cost exposure. It would most likely mean, if that were to happen, that we have not executed an MOU, which will ensure that the town's exposure for eminent domain takings to acquire the necessary property for a relocated road is much higher. As a quick point of reference, Vince did some measurements recently on some of the monitoring locations along the bluff. These have been measured for several years now. One of the triggers is when the bluff edge is within 25 feet of the road. Unprotected parts of the bluff are continuing to erode. A location north of the geotubes, just as an example, went from 39 feet in 2018 to 36 feet in 2022. That doesn't sound like a lot, but recent storms have not been kind to the area and more loss could be imminent. We are getting worryingly close to the 25-foot marker, and the closure of the public road and ground is being lost as these discussions continue. There is a location that measures 35 feet protected by the geotubes that has remained constant at 35 feet since 2018. And it is not known to have moved since the geotubes were installed. And we know this entire project is very controversial. And I think from the staff level anyway, not really speaking for the board, but having heard many, many discussions about this, again, this is a big picture look at a difficult situation, and we are trying our best to get it addressed.
Thank you, Libby, for that overview. Matt and Melissa or Christy, do you have any comments or questions?
I don't at the moment. Frankly, I'd love to hear from you and Christy, since I feel like Matt and I have been really involved in this. So if there are questions that you have that we can answer, I'd love to start there.
Christy, any thoughts?
I don't have any questions. I really appreciate all the work that you, Melissa, and Matt have done on this. I think so far it's been a really transparent process, and I feel like we've done our due diligence in having it come to the select board last week and opening up for comments and bringing it back this week to vote on it. And I'm ready to vote on this if there's no other questions from you, Jason or Matt.
Yeah, I think I'll take public comment before we move to any votes. I gave some of my thoughts last week. Not much has changed. I haven't been involved as much as you have, Melissa and Matt. It's been a lot. You probably spend more time on that than you do here on Wednesday nights, I would think, in the last year. And I know Vince and Ken and Libby and Jeff Carlson as well. He's been involved for a long time, but those three have put a large amount of time into this. And I think, Libby, you mentioned it, like we haven't done everything great in the past, right? We weren't holding the applicant accountable, and there's lots of things that have been asked of us. And so we have, I think, done a good job of admitting that, knowing where those gaps are, and addressing those in this last 2 years of this negotiation. So I feel good moving forward. I've listened to everybody. I've read everything that's been sent to us from opponents and proponents, and so I don't really have anything. Do you want anything from me that you want?
Well, I'll make a couple comments. I'm just disappointed in where we are. A lot of the charges in the letter that we received from the Concom were things that, when we watched their meetings and we talked to some of the members, that are out of their purview that they wanted taken care of. Things like sand and the number of truck trips, that type of stuff. Putting in place better enforcement. Those types of things were, things that we have baked into the MOU, and we've sort of have tried to take all of the different concerns of the public and of the various groups and meld them into one document. I can assure you, the MOU that we have right now is not, SBPF is not sitting going, this is the greatest MOU, this is great. There's a lot of things that they've been asked to do that, they didn't want to do, that they've agreed to do, because we held a hard line on them. There's mistakes that we made, no one's fault, but there were mistakes we made with how we, sort of writing things to individuals rather than putting them on deeds, and, maybe not putting enough money in for removal. Those have all been rectified. And when we had the Arcadis, when that information came up, some of the homeowners were upset. So there was a lot of time explaining to them, no, the deal that you made before is still valid, and they're still on board, even though they weren't on the northern end. They were sort of like, they thought the road was going to be too big, and when they saw it on paper, it wasn't to scale. And so we've met with their attorneys, we've met some of those individuals, and they're still on board. So I think that we've so I'd like to hear from the public, but I'd also I want to just apologize. I just assumed, I kind of feel like I failed. I feel like I've worked on this a long time. I've talked to both sides on this issue, and I've tried to negotiating in good faith to get people to realize it. And maybe it's maybe it's my failure. Maybe it's a failure of just assuming that people would look at the benefits and that people would understand, the tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars of exposure we have as taxpayers and as a community. Maybe I've just made, I'm sorry, maybe I've made assumptions that, or maybe maybe the whole thing is just too politicized, too contentious, and neither side is ever going to change. But I just, I'm just really disappointed. I'm disappointed in myself. that I didn't, maybe I should have done things differently or spoken more. Or I just, I can't, it's just discouraging. And seeing this sort of, anyway, I'm just discouraged. And I feel like I've sort of not done I feel like I've failed. I feel like I've failed the town. I feel like I could, I wish we could have done better.
I don't think you have failed at all. You've been the one, since I've been on the board, the one member who has been talking to everybody, Concom, SCPF, Coastal Conservancy. You listen and you have connections to everyone. You're trying to listen to everybody's concerns. So I don't think you failed. I think you've done a great job, Matt.
Jason,
Melissa?
I agree with everything you just said. And, I like to think of this as lessons learned. This is the first major coastal resiliency project we've had in our community before we even had a conversation about what coastal resiliency is or how we were going to respond to it as a community. So certainly, Matt, I think your participation in it as a board member has played a key role in your commitment to coastal resiliency. Has taken into account the big picture, which, we've heard from the Conservation Commission a number of times over my tenure on this board, that those are conversations they feel like they can't have, that they can really only have conversations on an application in front of them and on the merits of that application. So in a lot of ways, I found their letter to be the complete opposite of the position that we've heard previously. And obviously, our intention is to invite those bright minds on that board to help us plan for resiliency, and particularly in this project. So I also was disappointed with the content of that letter. The only suggestion that I can offer tonight to find, continue to find a way to have a path forward that's not contentious, is that perhaps we have a joint meeting. Maybe it's not the two full boards together. Maybe it's Matt and myself. Maybe it's Jason, you as chair, and Matt, because you've been working on this for so long, to meet with two Concom members and really have a conversation so this doesn't become a battle of letters and pointed statements at public meetings, and see if we can, get to some common ground. I think Matt is absolutely right. The MOU sets in place an accountability structure that wasn't there before. And I think that's one of the lessons learned, is that we need to have those expectations laid out before plans move forward. And we didn't know that before. So I'm confident that this MOU is the right direction for our community. I think Libby's statements about the unintended short-term impacts of removal could be catastrophic and have a great cost to the taxpayer, which I'm not comfortable with as a community member and as a representative. So, if we would like to have that meeting before we move forward on the MOU, I'm happy to have that conversation with you guys tonight and see what you think about that. We could certainly move forward with the MOU and continue to have that conversation. And none of this is happening very quickly. But I really want to recontextualize failure into lessons learned.
I'm hesitant to have a meeting in the short term with the Conservation Commission, because when we've done that in the past, it's like you said, Melissa, we can't really talk about anything that's not really in front of us. It needs to be in an application, right? And I understand that. I agree. And they're in a tough position,
right?
So if we had another meeting, I feel like that's what is going to happen again. But comments in the paper and letters, it tells a different story.
Right.
So I don't know how effective it would be, unless they were really interested in having it. So I always like to talk, right, and get people in a room, and try to hash out some differences and find a way forward.
So maybe the suggested path forward is, since we don't have a meeting for a couple of weeks, is postpone the vote on the MOU and just see if 2 select board members and 2 Concom members can sit down and have a conversation to really just sort of gauge what they're after. I mean, this letter that came from their special counsel is confusing, to say the least. And I think the sentiments in it are very different than what we've heard in both, our public and executive sessions with them. So I think that bears some, it needs some conversation with them. And I agree, if we're having I don't know the best path forward for that, if we workshop it or what. But like I said, if that's not the right idea, then I'm happy to move forward with this MOU tonight. I'm confident it's the right thing for our community.
Christy, Matt? Go ahead.
Christy, do you want to? No, I'll go on.
Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm willing to, I'm willing to meet, 2-on-2. I agree with Jason, 5-on-5 or 5 on, the full boards
Right.
in the on a camera, et cetera. That's very difficult. I think, I think 2-on-2 to try to suss out what both sides is trying to do is fine. And I also think sort of, well, maybe not a mistake, but, trying to show, hey, we're looking at the whole picture. That in retrospect, we should have just said, we're bumping SBPF on the nose. Here's the, here's the enforcement, we're fixing the sand, which was, something that was a huge issue. And they, we went to them and said, we're not even talking to you. Do you fix that? And they started to. And so, maybe that's what, if I could go back and change it, I think that the future has gotten a little too caught up in everything. I think I think the first step right now is to put the right amount of sand on there and to have that hearing and have that, have that sorted and then figure out if and what the next steps are, and I think that's, so, and we know, sort of, I know where I think we should go, but I think, if there's, anyway, I just think I think we put so much together that we, may have overloaded everybody. So.
I agree. It's become very confusing for the public
Right.
to understand the nuances of what's happening here. Obviously, with the exception of the people who are, really paying attention. But I think, for the general public, the full story is hard to take in and keep track of. A lot of moving parts.
Yeah, I had a call this afternoon from resident Island in saying the trucks are ruining the roads and the sand, and we have to do that's we can't do it, the sand delivery and the trucks and on and on. And I said, well, the MOU is attempting to change that. It's not going to change immediately this year or next year, but the goal is to, is for SBPF to find an offshore site and for the town to find suitable sites on island that could be used to slurry this year and end some of those complaints. That was one of the things that our work group talked about. It's one of the things that we've put into the MOU for going forward. And I just think that, and this person is pretty up on the town, town, what's going on in the town and had it completely wrong. So anyway, that's where I think, I think we haven't really explained, sort of what is the real risk here? What is it? Which I think I made the assumption that people would know that and understand that, and I just don't think they do. And I think there is some, misconception out there that, we just take it away, and that's a hard thing. It won't, nothing's going to happen there. There's nothing bad's going to happen, and that's farthest from the truth. So.
So where do we, the 4 of us here, where do we feel like just we don't need a motion, but I want to go to the public, but are we?
I'm personally ready to hear some public comment. I think our choices tonight are to approve the MOU or to postpone for a couple of weeks and see if we can't workshop something with Concom. in the past, it's been very difficult to organize meetings, particularly with full boards on short notice. So I think a workshop, with just 2 members from each board is the way to go. And that would allow this board and the public to feel that, all of those concerns have really been addressed. But based on the substance of their letter, again, I'm fine voting for the MOU tonight. So I think we hear from the public and see what happens.
Matt, Christie, good with that? Christie, go ahead.
Thank you. I guess I'm just wondering what we would want to get out of a condensed meeting with the Concom. Kind of what would be the benefit of delaying it 2 weeks instead of voting through it tonight?
That's a good question. I think anytime you get in the room, you can talk. It's a good thing. And maybe nothing does come out of it, but it's maybe worth a try. Right? If 2 weeks isn't, if it's not as timely, I know it's timely for SCPF and from their eyes, they want it done. But if we need to wait 2 more weeks and have more conversations, I'm fine with that.
I guess my added comment to that would just be that because we see this as a model for coastal resiliency planning in the future, I think it's really important that we have these conversations and address some of the concerns and get clear on the best way to move forward when we have situations like this. Do we come to them and get comment on an MOU before we move forward? What does that mean? What's the value in that? Do they want us to only approach them when we have an application in front of them? I think some of those things are going to create a template for future conversations. So there's some merit to working some of those issues out now. I don't think it delays this process in any harmful way, but I would certainly rely on Libby to tell me or Vince if that's wrong.
Mr. Chair.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Pucci.
I apologize for breaking in. I usually try to speak when spoken to. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is George Pucci from Town Council's office. I obviously have no position on you delaying your vote. That's strictly a policy decision. I did just want to caution you just on a couple of issues. Number one, just logistically, I just wanted to let you know I am here tonight on Libby's request in case you had any legal questions related to this issue. And I am not available on April 6th if you end up continuing to that night. The second, more substantive and important issue is, as you probably will recall, our firm has always taken the position under the open meeting law, if you have 2 members of a board formally engaged in a matter and meeting on business related to something pending before that board, that's a subcommittee subject to the open meeting law. So I just wanted to just throw that out to you for your consideration. If you were to ask us, it would be our opinion that would be a subcommittee, both on your part to appoint 2 members to meet with the Conservation Commission and formally in a meeting, and also from the Conservation Commission, if they were to have 2 members formally designated to meet with you, we would say that that's a subcommittee meeting subject to the open meeting law.
George, it was my understanding that if it was a multiple meetings, if you had 2 board members in multiple meetings, then that wasn't not best practice for open meeting law or considered a meeting. But if it was just a one-off, I didn't think that fell in that bucket.
It would still be that our opinion would still stick to that on the one-off, unless you had 1 member just strictly observing. And as you know, that's difficult to do really in reality.
The other way to do it would be to have 1 member and a staff member, to have, a staff member and a board member do it. That's another way to handle it. So.
Okay. Thank you, George. Did you have anything else, George?
No, I have nothing to say. I'm available here for
Okay.
questions if you have them, but I certainly have nothing to add from the great summaries that have been presented to you.
Okay. Libby or Vince, is there anything you wanted to add before we go to the public? Okay. Can we go to Deanne? She has her hand up.
Thank you, Jason. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I have one comment in terms of public information, and then what I think is a positive suggestion. I think most of the public who is listening to this conversation does not have the information that you have and we have. And I think it's important to share that. On Monday of this week, the special counsel for the Conservation Commission sent a letter to you, the members of the select board, requesting that you do not approve the MOU. And apparently that was a unanimous vote by the commission. The letter, as far as I know, is a public document, but I don't know if the public has had a chance to access and read it. And I would just like to read the final paragraph. The commission firmly believes the document, the MOU, has the potential to do serious damage to municipal government on Nantucket, and the public's confidence in the same because of the confusion it would create concerning the boards and commission's respective legal duties and responsibilities. In addition, by seeking to marginalize the commission and unlawfully usurp critical aspects of its regulatory and enforcement authority, the proposed MOU would also set a disturbing precedent were it to be given the board's imprimatur. It would put Nantucket on a path to splintered, arbitrary, and ineffective coastal protection efforts in the coming years, when the opposite will be needed to successfully address these accelerating environmental challenges on the island. For these reasons, the commission, by unanimous vote, strongly and respectfully urges the board not to approve the proposed MOU. And further, there was a second letter, and the second letter was from the special counsel of the Conservation Commission to the attorney for SBPF. And apparently there has been request for a stay in the judicial proceedings. And the Conservation Commission said in the letter that they would agree to the stay under certain conditions. And those conditions were enumerated. So clearly from that letter, it appears, at least to the public, that the commission is willing to work with SPPF. That seems to be a positive step forward. In this letter, council asked for a response from SPPF by noon today. We don't know if they ever received a response. Do you?
I'm not aware.
Okay. I hope you will make both of these letters available to the public on the town website as soon as possible, so that the public can have the information it needs to understand this very complex situation. My second comment is really a suggestion, which was contained in our email, which we sent on, I believe it was on Monday, to each of you. We have never received a reply, even an acknowledgement that you received our email. And in the email, we requested that you have a public workshop discussion about this issue, so we can have a substantive back and forth about various aspects of this issue. You know, we have information to share with you. We have questions to ask. We know it's difficult. We want to help you sort it through. And quite frankly, we feel very shut out. And the reason we're asking for that kind of public workshop discussion is because the property in question, the public beach below the bluff in Sconset, is owned by us, the inhabitants of Nantucket. And you are the stewards that we look to protect that property. Second, an expansion of the current system, which you are agreeing to partner with SBPF in a so-called, model public-private partnership to expand, was not recommended by Arcadis in the Baxter Road feasibility assessment. Yes, they did say if effectiveness were the only criteria, then hard armoring would probably be the accepted way forward. But they cited not only stakeholder concerns, but they cited regulatory constraints, and that is hard armoring, such as geotubes, have been prohibited in Massachusetts since 1978. Yes, hard armoring is allowed to protect pre-1978 structures, but only on certain conditions. And third, seeking expansion of a hard armoring installation on a public beach is not consistent with the principles of the Comprehensive Coastal Resilience Plan, which you have recently accepted. And that principle is we will work with nature. Nantucket's coastlines have been enhanced and shaped by coastal processes for thousands of years and will continue to be in the future. Nantucket's resilience will depend on the community's ability to work with rather than against nature. By accepting change and adapting built systems over time, the Coastal Resilience Plan prioritizes approaches that reduce risk to human communities and also leverage and enhance natural systems. We ask you to listen to the Conservation Commission and not approve the proposed MOU tonight. And secondly, we ask you to please schedule a workshop meeting for a really quality conversation, not only with members of the Conservation Commission, but with members of the public. We believe that this is a way forward that will be positive and can be supported by everyone.
Thank you, Deanne. Anything else?
No, thank you, Jason.
We go to RJ Turcotte.
Hi, Jason. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So I'm RJ Turcotte on behalf of the Nantucket Land Council. It is very clear that the Select Board and the Conservation Commission are not on the same page, and the Commission would clearly like to have a discussion about the MOU since it is going to directly impact them in their administration of our wetlands bylaws. And we at the Land Council think it is critical to have as open a channel of communication with them as possible, whether that means postponing this and having a discussion with 2 of their members and 2 of the Select Board members, or whatever it takes really, because coastal resilience is one of the most complex issues that the Commission deals with, as it is for you on the Select Board. And this is just the beginning. There are so many projects, over 40 in the Coastal Resilience Plan, that the Select Board and Commission are going to have to be on the same page about. So this will be a good exercise in making sure that both boards are on the same page going forward, and that we can avoid this sort of back and forth in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, RJ. Yeah, my concern with going back to what we were talking about before, the Conservation Commission, is we've asked them multiple times over and over, what would you like to see? What would you like to see? What would you like to see? And every time we can only look at what the application's in front of us. But now at the 11th hour, we've done all this work, we get a letter. So I'm not sure if that's the best communication from them, right? Where I'm not very happy with that. If someone's disturbed, I'm disturbed from that letter, from what I'm just saying. Matt?
Yeah, that I was going to say, the first thing Dan read, that was inflammatory and a lot of it is incorrect. And so I think that, it talks about us undermining, that letter is undermining the town's ability to work together. I think that, to me, and I think it's a little passive aggressive to say, but we really want, punch someone in the nose and then say, by the way, we really want to work with you, and tell some, I just feel like I was very disappointed in the letter. I was very disappointed in the tone of the letter. I mean, it's going to be public. We'll get it out there. And we purposely didn't read it tonight, because it was not, I don't believe that it would have been productive to pick that thing apart piece by piece, and we could have had George come on and pick it apart piece by piece. I don't think that's productive. If we're trying to move forward, then let's try to move forward. But, so that's why I think, Melissa's suggestion to me, maybe that's why it may make some sense, because clearly we are not on the same page and not even close, and so anyway, I just, and there were a lot of other points made, the coastal, you can look in the coastal resiliency in the plan and you can say, there's no hard armoring, but then when you look, they're hard armoring, they're suggesting we hard armor dunes, and it's not harm armor, it's geotube dunes in Nantucket. It's saying, they stake them and put them in and put the sand on top. It's different than putting it at the toe, but they do talk about that maybe being necessary. And certainly they're talking about that type of use at the probably at down here at the sewer beds, potentially at the airport someday. I mean, there's going to be some places where that may be that and then you're going to need a lot of sand to do that. Where's that coming from? So some of the things that we're looking at are attempts to solve that. If we could find a sand source, it would be used in those areas. And so I do think, anyway, so we could go point by point. I'm not sure that that's useful tonight, and I think it's just, yeah.
Jason?
Sure, Mr. Pucci, yes.
I did promise to speak only when spoken to, but I did want to just comment legally. I would recommend against actually posting that letter on the website. It certainly is a public record, and you can produce it, to anyone who requests it or as you see fit. But I disagree with the legal contents of that letter, and I do not think that that's something that you would want to post on your website, because why would you want to post something that you think is legally incorrect? And I just wanted to note just a couple of things. As Matt said, tonight is not the forum to go through something like that line by line. But first of all, you didn't provide the draft MOU to the Conservation Commission to get a lawyer's letter back, or you would have sent it in the form of a lawyer's letter. You were providing it as a courtesy to get, civil discourse and give the Conservation Commission the ability to see it and comment on it before you took a vote. And I don't want to try to contradict in any way or show disrespect to Deanne Atherton, who I think the world of. I've known Deanne off and on, coming to Nantucket for more than 12 years now. And I think the world of her and the advocacy that she presents. But unfortunately, reading from that letter, I would respectfully disagree with the conclusion that was read in that letter from the Conservation Commission Special Counsel, which I'll also point out and remind you that you provided the Conservation Commission with special counsel to defend their enforcement order ordering removal of the structure. even though you did not agree with that order. You provided them with counsel on that issue so that they would be represented and they would have their voice heard in the event that that had to be litigated. But in summary, from that portion that Deanne had read, the MOU does not in any way preclude any type of further dialogue with the Conservation Commission. More importantly, the MOU does not in any way intrude on the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction. You were very careful to have provisions in there recognizing the Commission's full autonomy and jurisdiction on issues under the Wetlands Protection Act and under the local wetlands bylaw. And in fact, one of the big goals that you expressed to me in assisting you in preparing that draft was to actually strengthen the Commission's ability to deal with issues related to this. There had been clearly expressed dissatisfaction from the Conservation Commission before, when enforcement issues arose, that the select board was not taking ownership of the issues involving SBPF, and they were expressing frustration. It was something that was a recurring complaint. You have tried to deal with that situation in the MOU by having accountability actually with town administration and with the select board, that if there's a problem with SBPF, if there is non-compliance with conditions, that the select board and town administration will work as a almost an owner of this project to make sure that those issues are resolved and make sure that SBPF adequately responds. And the other thing that you built into the MOU was a better structure going forward so that you have accountability to the Conservation Commission if issues arise. And you have things like a maintenance and operation plan that will hold SBPF to requirements in the future to ensure compliance. So you've both recognized and respected the Conservation Commission's autonomy and jurisdiction in that MOU, and you're not in any way intruding on that, and you're trying to strengthen the issues going forward in the future to resolve enforcement issues and maintain compliance in the meantime so that there aren't enforcement issues in the future. And one last legal point about the MOU is, just as you recognize the Conservation Commission's autonomy and independent jurisdiction under legal issues within their jurisdiction, you also have obligations as the executive authority for the town. And that's what you're also addressing in that MOU. Now, those are issues that other town boards really do not have the right to intrude on your autonomy. And what you were trying to accomplish in the MOU, and one reason why you do not want to put this off indefinitely, is there are important long-term planning issues addressed in the MOU. And SBPF has made a commitment to furnish you with items that are of great importance to the town. And what you're looking to the board as a policy matter is looking long-term. You're recognizing that Arcadis had recommended that long-term, you need to think about a relocation of the full roadway. And you've tried to look at it as an entire neighborhood. And the way you're trying to do it is maintain existing conditions, make sure there are no adverse effects from the existing project, resolve any enforcement issues that have occurred. And then you're looking to the future about when this roadway will ultimately have to be relocated and where that relocation should be. And the other thing that you're trying to accomplish from that is so that you don't have to do eminent domain takings related to the layout of that roadway, and that there'll be triggers in place for the long-term plan, whatever that is. You're not locked in under the MOU. If you don't reach agreement with SBPF on a long-term roadway relocation plan and related easement agreements that will be springing easements that will be recorded against title and that will come into play when that relocation goes into effect. So if that doesn't occur, you're in no way locked in to anything under this MOU to go forward with any type of expansion project or anything like that. And in the meantime, you're covering fallback if you need contingencies in place to deal with the existing project and possible removal of that existing project. So you've got issues that are before you and exclusively in your jurisdiction that you're trying to accomplish for the town long term. And in the meantime, you're not intruding on anybody's jurisdiction under the MOU. So I just wanted to clarify for the board, what the issues actually are before you.
Thank you, George. Dawn?
I'm sorry, I had to come in late because of a school thing, but I don't want to be repetitive at all. But I certainly welcome communication with the Conservation Commission in the form of if it's one or two board members or all of the board members meeting. I think that could be productive. I'm concerned with the letter that we received and kind of not just the content, but the fact that it was written by counsel that was approved for a legal defense for the Conservation Commission and not for communication with us. It doesn't set the right tone for me, and it was pretty disappointing. I hope that we can get past that and maybe have some more informal and open meetings about it. I'm also concerned about the way the way in which the letter was drafted, not publicly. That being said, I completely agree with what George has said. I think that the MOU is really looking at the big picture, all of the stuff that we need to consider, all of the stuff that's been told that we need to pay closer attention to for a number of years. We've really put tremendous effort into this, and it does not tie our hands. It does not supersede any authority of the Conservation Commission. And I think that that we should move forward and just try to come up with some solutions. We have a lot more to deal with in regard to coastal resiliency going forward. And we can't be banging heads like this on all of these projects. We've got to find ways that work and that everybody can live with for the future of the island. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. How's the board feel? You ready to make a motion? Do you want to think about it more, Melissa?
I guess, I think we have to just finish the conversation about whether we see any value in postponing this to the 6th and having a conversation with Concom, or do we approve this tonight and decide to meet with them still? I mean, I think there's issues that need to be worked out. So I think we just have to pick a path forward.
I didn't realize that the discussion was about postponing. I don't see why we would postpone, but I would welcome continued communication in terms of moving things along.
Yeah. My sentiment was, if the board felt like in majority that benefit of time would help answer some questions, but I feel confident that the MOU has set us in the right direction. So
I think regardless, whichever way we go, right now, we still need to probably have some of those meetings with Conservation Commission, a workshop that Deanne suggested, whether it's facilitated by an Arcadis type or we just have it, because it is very complicated. So either way, I would still suggest to do those.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to suggest something because I feel like, like I said earlier, I feel like I've failed. I feel like this hasn't really, I've done anyway. I'm hesitant because I feel like the things I've sort of done haven't worked, so.
Matt, are you hesitant to go forward with the MOU or hesitant just to do
No,
anything,
I'm not
really?
hesitant with the MOU. I'm hesitant to make a suggestion on the path, because clearly the path that, we've been on, which I had a part in doing, of, trying to bring everybody in and talk to everybody and listen to everybody. Clearly that hasn't, borne fruit. And so I'm a little, maybe we've got to do it another way. So I'm listening to, to others at this point.
Christie?
Thank you. I was just going to add, I think it's worth continuing the conversation with the Concom, but I'm not so certain that it would change an outcome of the MOU. So I'm not sure it's necessary to delay tonight's vote, but that's just my 2 cents.
I would agree with that. I'm okay with moving forward. If the board wants, we can continue to take public comment. But I'm ready to move forward. Somebody wants to make a motion, or if the board says, if you feel like we need,
there are a couple of people who've had there's 4 people who have their hands raised.
it's not a public hearing. We don't have to take any comment. We listened to Deanne from the Coastal Conservancy for 9 minutes. But I'm happy to continue going on.
I'd be happy to make a motion to endorse the MOU. And
I'll
to
second.
continue the conversation with the public and with the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, I'll second, and just to add on that, we continue that conversation with the Concom.
And I would add that I don't know if it should be a part of the motion, but I would appreciate that our communication with the Conservation Commission is not through council, because that's not what we authorized it for. It's not necessary.
Could everybody hear that? What you said at the end there, Dawn? You kind of got quiet. Libby, could you hear that? If Libby could hear it, then okay, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Any more discussion?
I'm struggling, but I'm struggling, but I'm trying to go against my nature of my own nature of trying to bring people together. I'm struggling, but.
Matt and Melissa, you put in a tremendous amount of work in the most recent time on this, and I think that it's a good product.
Thank you. And I feel really happy having you all weigh in on the decision, because I think Matt and I are very mired in it. We certainly don't have a stake in the outcome, but we do feel like this team has done good work. And I'll say it again, I'm confident that this MOU is the right thing for our community, for long-range planning, and as a basis for other coastal resilience solutions as we move forward. So thank you for your confidence in it. Yeah, we'll talk with anyone. I think Matt and I are both very committed to, finding solution. And that doesn't mean we're always going to agree with people, but we're always willing to have the conversation. And I agree, through council should be the last option.
Anything else? Okay, by roll call vote, all those in favor of the motion: Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Don Holgate,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Jason Bridges, aye. That passes 5-0. Okay.
And I think the point of continued conversation is important still.
Yeah.
I think that still has to happen. I don't know how we'd like to do that, and I agree with Dawn's point that we should be, not talking through lawyers. We should be face to face and working out our issues, as much as possible. I think that's, it's a small island and we all know each other. And I think we should be trying to do that. But so what is, do we want to try to figure that out tonight, or is that going to be for another time?
I would suggest talking to Libby and Vince, Ken, and what their suggestions are, to maybe reach out, or I can work, Don and I can work with Libby to figure something out.
Yeah. And, again, happy to sit in on a conversation, but, sometimes different voices help. So, no, I'm not offended if I'm not participating in it. So I think this really needs to be a collaborative effort by all the select board members at this point.
Mhm.
And, whatever the Ken, Libby, Vince and Jeff suggest, I think is the right way forward.
We can get together internally and figure out some dates maybe for a workshop meeting. It is going to be a couple weeks because we already have a number of things scheduled for at least the next two, just, internal projects and things. So we'll try to get something figured out. Plus, people are going to have to clear schedules and get people lined up.
Okay. Thank you, Libby. Any committee reports? Any last comments?
Just a quick note that the Board of Health meeting last week was rescheduled to this week. And I was not able to attend last week. I won't be able to attend this week, but there is one tomorrow at, I believe, 2:30.
Okay. Anybody else?
The Affordable Housing Trust had some really good, and I see some of them here, some really good communication yesterday about down payment assistance program. And it was really encouraging. I just wanted to mention it.
The Coastal Resiliency met on Tuesday. One of the large topics was how should they continue, what recommendation, what asked to us, and what should the role be going forward. So we spoke about that, quite a bit, and we should be seeing a request to, for them to continue coming forward.
Great. Matt, I just noticed that tonight in Charlie's recommendation on children's speech that there was the interim agreement that we signed up with, I think August 20th, and that once the CRP was approved, then that commitment was sort of released. But I'm just wondering if Coastal Resiliency is talking about some other kind of commitment that the select board should take, or there should be some extension of that.
I think they're talking about them staying, the
Okay.
board is talking about staying in place and for another couple of years at least.
Great.
Or probably permanently. This isn't going
Yeah,
away.
these solutions aren't going to come
And
fast.
some of I think those as we at the design workshop, we're gonna probably need people that are good in finance, working on the
Mhm.
finance aspects. And so that, there might be other people pulled in.
Yeah.
Some of the topics were, should it be the exact same people that are now that are picked through representatives? Is there anyone that should be added? I think a couple members of the town should
Mhm.
probably be involved in some manner. Then there's a question of who, do you stagger the terms
Mhm.
and just make it a regular committee and stagger the terms? Those type of issues were discussed.
Yeah.
And my suggestion to them was, or to us as CRAC, is to work some of that out and bring it as a recommendation, rather than have us try to make it. It's a very good group.
Yeah.
I kind of thought about them for maybe the workshop on this, is because, Mary runs a really good meeting and it's a really good group. And I think maybe we should take advantage of
Yeah.
some of that. So.
And certainly those opinions on policy moving forward are going to be really essential, continued to be essential. So don't want to lose the thrust of that.
And I think we need the town, we're underwater on so many things, the staff is, that a board that's paying attention and making sure implementation is, prioritized and happening, I think is very valuable.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it could easily, be pushed to the bottom of the pile and lose focus. And this is something that we really can't be losing focus on.
Agreed.
Reports for me, usually try to give an update on, not next week, but on April 6th, we've got an HTC appeal coming up. We've got Coastal Resiliency Plan update and CRC recommendations for the Human Services Grant and some other minor things. Those are the big ones.
Okay. The beat goes on.
It goes on. Anything else? Or is there a motion to?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call? Melissa?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Christie?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jason, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Pucci. Thank you, Ken, Vince, Libby,
Thank you, Jason.
Charlie, and Erica.
Thank you.